I do think we can tax the rich further, especially in specific expenditures, such as supercars. I had asked this in my budget speech, and I asked the finance minister at some point again to consider a separate category of COEs for supercars costing over $1 million. The billionaires should compete amongst themselves so as not to allow the state to benefit from their preferences for luxury goods. The same goes for the tax on GCBs, maybe country club, transfer fees, and so on. Net worth is not net income, and is the first, which may be a stronger force for fracture. My second point on inherited wealth is to ask for some data. The data on the Gini coefficient is clear. After adjusting for government transfers and taxes, the Gini coefficient fell from 0.437 in 2021 to 0.378 in 2022, the second lowest on record. It is a sign that government transfers are a good way to reduce income inequalities. But the Gini coefficient includes only wage income. It does not take into account capital income, which is likely to be more uneven in distribution. I do not know what the wealth distribution is in Singapore, but the government may consider releasing some data so as to help public discussion.
I would like to suggest that the government consider introducing a limited inheritance tax by way of a stamp duty or tax on inherited real property. Inheritance tax is a form of wealth tax and can be gradated so that it is progressive in nature. Currently, inherited residential property is not taxed and does not even attract stamp duty. The government can consider introducing a tax based on the percentage of the value of the property, and the percentage tax should be higher the more expensive the property inherited is. The minimum could begin from, say, a property value of 5 million Singapore dollars and graded upwards from there. Inheritance tax in OECD countries can go as high as 40%, but I would suggest more modest rates, perhaps in line with the additional buyer's stamp duties that can go up to 25% for Singapore citizens and 35% foreigners. The tax regime should be able to take into consideration the personal circumstances of beneficiaries and provide appropriate exemptions.
Part of the problem is a disconnect between what this government has claimed to be basic versus what Singaporeans themselves perceive as necessary for human flourishing. But if we can all agree that a good life includes opportunities to education and decent healthcare, employment with work-life balance, and a sense of inclusion when one participates in social, cultural, and religious activities, then why do we not extend these to the most economically vulnerable in our midst? Life is not just about making it day to day, but about thriving, as all humans, poor or not, have aspirations. It is time for an official poverty line. This line should be established based on components that go beyond just the crude basic needs of housing, food, and clothing. Set up a committee with representatives from not just the MSF, but also leaders from civil society and experts from academia to figure out what this should be. Then peg all thresholds for government assistance, especially Comcare, to this line or higher, but never lower. The local qualifying salary, effectively our minimum wage for all Singaporeans, should likewise be tied to this line.